Welcome back to the Bad Influence podcast where we show you how to conquer your negative thoughts. I'm the bad influence that you need in your life, Bjordan Banderas. And today, let's cut through the bullshit right now. Because negative thoughts are not just in your head, they're taking over your life. I've seen people going through this. I went through this a long time ago. So, unfortunately, it's happening more and more often than ever before, especially with everything that's going on social media and in life itself. And if you're sitting there thinking, that's not me, let me ask you, how often do you feel stuck, overwhelmed, or like you're not enough? That's a good question. I want you to answer that question for yourself. Don't give that answer to anybody but to you. And that's the addiction to negativity. And it's holding you hostage. Negative thoughts are sneaky bastards. They start small, like a little voice whispering, "You're not good enough," or "This will never work." And before you know it, that voice is running your entire day, your entire week, and your entire life. I have met people that are like 60, 70, 80 years old and are so negative that makes me wonder, like, what the hell happened to you that you're so negative? And this is not something that just happened a few days ago or anything like that with these people. This is something that happened years ago that made them think negative about themselves or about life, and they kept that negativity going for years. And here's the worst part. It's not just in your mind. It's in how you feel, how you act, and how you see the world. But here's the truth. Happiness isn't something you just get, which is something that a lot of people think. They're like, oh, well, I should just be able to be happy. I should just get happiness all the time. I should just feel happy no matter what. This is something you have to fucking fight for. Especially if you're addicted to negativity, though. And breaking free from that cycle isn't easy. Believe me, I can tell you. But it's fucking worth it. It's the most worthy thing that you can do for yourself. Because when you finally let go of those toxic thoughts, you'll discover a version of yourself you didn't even know existed. And today, we're going to dismantle this addiction piece by piece. So by the end of this episode, you'll know exactly how to take back control of your mind, your feelings, and your life. So buckle up, because it's time to stop surviving and start thriving. Here's the first thing you need to understand. Negative thoughts are addictive. Oh, yes, they are. There's neuroscience behind that. And like any addiction, they give you a false sense of comfort. I know. When I first heard this and I started researching this, because of the neuroscience, because of podcasts. I came across a podcast with a neuroscientist that actually mentioned this, and then I heard another psychologist actually say this. So I did some research on this because I was like, damn, is that how I'm living my life? Am I addicted to negativity? And I was. But here's the thing. Here's what happens in your little brain, in that little mushy thing that we have inside our skulls. It feels easier to expect the worst, to dwell on what's wrong, than to fight for a better outlook. It took me a long time to understand that. And that's exactly how I was living my life before I went to therapy, before I decided to change. But here's the thing. That comfort that you feel when you're expecting the worst, when you know something bad is going to happen, it's a trap. Because when you focus on negativity, your brain gets hooked. And all it starts to do, it starts to think negative thoughts. So it starts to look for more negativity to validate those feelings. You're telling your brain, or your brain takes over the negative part of your brain, and it's like, oh, you know what? This life sucks. So your brain is going to start looking for more negativity to validate exactly how you feel. You're training your mind to see problems instead of solutions, failures instead of opportunities. And the more you feed it, the stronger that habit becomes. The crazy part is that this cycle isn't just mental. No. This is one of the most interesting things that I have found in the last 10 years after going to therapy and helping my wife get better from her breakdown. This cycle, it's also physical. I know, because here's what happens. Your brain, or our brain in this situation, releases stress hormones like cortisol every time you dwell on negative emotions. And over time, that stress becomes your default state. Probably you have seen people being so stressed out that you're like, what the hell? Take a chill pill because you're so stressed out. And I used to be like that. I used to be exactly like that. My wife used to be like that. I have friends that used to be like that. And I started talking to them about this, and then they have been able to make the necessary changes to actually improve their lives. But here's the thing about this. When you are in a negative state, you're literally rewiring your brain to stay stuck in a loop of unhappiness. But here's the good news. If you can train your brain to focus on negativity, you can train it to focus on positivity. I know. That's pretty much what I had to do, and something that I've been doing for years. It wasn't easy. I'm going to fucking tell you that. It wasn't easy. Because you literally have to go from looking down all the time, complaining about your life, finding everything wrong, to looking up and seeing the freaking rainbow. So it's hard. So the question is, are you ready to break the fucking cycle? I'll never forget the time I realized how addicted I was to negativity. It was a few years ago, and I just had a rough day at work. This is before I started going to therapy. On the drive home, I was replaying every mistake, every single mistake I'd made, every word I'd say wrong, everything that I did wrong that day. By the time I got home, I was in a full-blown spiral. When I went inside the house, my wife noticed right away. She said, "Why are you so hard on yourself? You're only seeing the bad, but what about the good?" That's a good question, right? And you know what I did? You want to know what I did? I snapped at her. I did. I couldn't even hear her positivity because I was so deep in my own negativity. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. And I had a moment of clarity when I was doing that. I realized this wasn't just a bad day. This was my life. I was addicted to tearing myself down, to seeing the worst in every situation. And if I didn't do something about it, that cycle was going to destroy me. And it was going to hold me back, even though it was already doing it. That was the night I decided to take control. And trust me, it wasn't easy. That's why I went to therapy. I couldn't have done it alone. I was like, I need help, professional help, because I was so deep in negativity, since that's how I survive life, by being negative, by always looking for a way out, by always seeing the negative, expecting the worst, and always knowing that I had to do something to avoid it, or it was just life at that point. Because that's one of the things that happens all the time when you're so negative. You start to just expect it, and you're like, I knew my life is negative. I knew this was going to happen. He or she was going to break my heart. I see people saying this all the time. I just knew it. So you just start to expect it. But step by step, and with the help of therapy and my wife, I started breaking the addiction. And if I can do it, if I can do it, and the way that I say this, or the way that I mean it, is if I can do it, someone that has been considered lazy as fuck, someone that had no drive, can make this change, so can you. So one question I have for you, and I want you to answer this for yourself. Why are we so hooked on negativity? Well, here's my answer, and this is what I have found based on the research. It's not your fault. It truly is not. It's biology. Your brain is hardwired to look for threats, to focus on what's wrong, because that's how humans survived back in the day. Our brains are so old. The amygdala is one of the oldest parts of our brains. It developed before the prefrontal neocortex, which is where logical thinking comes from. That's why it's so hard to sometimes break that negativity, because it's literally hardwired in our brains. That's how we survive for thousands of years. That's how we have survived as a species. But guess what? You're not running from lions anymore. That survival instinct, it's outdated. It truly is. Society, and here's the problem, society doesn't help either. Think about the news. It's a constant stream of fear, anger, and drama. Social media is a highlight reel that makes you feel like you're falling behind. Everywhere you look, negativity is being shoved in your face, and your brain is eating it up. Even though you're seeing it on your phone or on TV, your brain is already acting like, oh shit, there's so many things going on. I have to prepare to survive. So you start releasing cortisol without even knowing it. But here's the thing. Just because negativity is everywhere doesn't mean you have to let it control you. No. Just like I did. This is where you have to break that cycle. This is what you have to understand. You can't let it control you. You have the power to retrain your mind to stop reacting to the negativity around you and start creating the positivity within you. The first step is to recognize the addiction. Because once you see the problem, you can start working on the solution. So let's get into the steps you need to break the addiction. Step 1, awareness. Start paying attention to your thoughts. Every time you catch yourself spiraling into negativity, stop and ask, is this thought helping me or hurting me? Just asking that question can break the cycle. Step 2, gratitude. I know this is hard for a lot of people, especially with everything that is going on and the economy and everything, right? It's hard to be grateful for something. But this isn't just some fluffy feel-good advice. It's science. Because when you focus on what you're grateful for, your brain releases dopamine, the feel-good chemical. I've done this, and you can actually see the difference. Like, I can feel the difference by starting to do this. That's how you actually start changing your perception of life, by being grateful. But you have to start small, though. You cannot be all like, oh, I'm grateful for all of these things, if you don't have them. So you can start small. Write down 3 things you're grateful for every single morning. And then watch how it changes your mindset. But I do want to tell you this, though. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in a week. It's not going to happen in a few months. It could take a few years. But just keep doing it. For me, I will say that it took almost like a year. That's how bad my negative mindset was. I will say like it was like a year because all of this I had to do it while my wife was at the sickest point in her life. So I had to go through a fucking storm and still be grateful. So it was hard. And step 3, reframe your thoughts. Instead of saying, I'm terrible at this, try, I'm learning how to get better. Instead of nothing ever works for me, say, this is a challenge, but I'll figure it out. Words matter. Choose ones that empower you, not hold you back. Step 4, take action. Negative thoughts thrive on inaction. Yes, they do. So when you're stuck in your head, do something, anything. Go for a walk, call a friend, start a project. Movement breaks the cycle. One thing that I have found about this that works for me and it can work for you is that if I start feeling negative, like, oh, my life sucks, all of that shit, one of the things that I do is that I say something out loud like, you know what, I'm going to go for a walk. And then I go for a walk. Or I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow at this time. And then I go to the gym at that time. And that starts breaking that negative mindset because you start doing something that you say you were going to do. So you see that as positive. Your brain releases the good chemicals that you're feeling good, like the dopamine and all that stuff. And you're like, you know what? I have to do this every day. That's pretty much what I did. Step 5, surround yourself with positivity. This one is huge, extremely huge, super huge. Because if you're constantly around negative people, it's going to drag you down. Seek out relationships, content, and environments that lift you up. And finally, step 6, the most important one. This is the most important step you can ever take. Be patient. I know. We live in a society that is just rushing, running. Like you cannot stop. You have to do everything like fast. Everything has to happen in the moment, like within 5 minutes, within 5 seconds, right? But breaking an addiction takes time. You're not going to wake up one day and never have a negative thought again. That's not how it works. But with consistent effort, you'll start to see a shift. And that shift is worth everything. Because when you break free from negativity, everything changes. You start to see possibilities where you once saw obstacles. You feel lighter, happier, and more alive. You realize that happiness isn't something that happens to you. It's something you create. And the best part of this, and I have noticed it with my friends, with my wife, with people around me, positivity is contagious. When you show up as your best self, you inspire the people around you to do the same. Your happiness doesn't just change your life, it creates a ripple effect that impacts everyone you touch. So don't wait for happiness to find you. Go out and create it. Break the addiction to negativity and watch how your entire world transforms. Because at the end of the day, you deserve to be happy. Not tomorrow, not someday, today, right now. You deserve it. You haven't done anything wrong in your life that says you deserve to be a negative person and you deserve everything negative that happens to you. No, I haven't met anybody like that. Yes, there are bad people out there, but I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about you in particular. So go out there, start working on this. Become the change that you want to see in the world. Start being more positive. Be the light that lights the darkness for others. Because when you start doing that, not just you, but everyone around you changes. And when you start doing this, you start to work on yourself in other aspects of your life. Like you can start building your body, your mindset, your knowledge, your financial status. You start changing so many things about you because you feel so damn positive and you know that you can do hard shit and you start doing the hard stuff. And then changes start happening and you're like, damn, I should have done this a long time ago. But then one thing that you need to do is just start today. Not tomorrow, not the next day, not next week, not next year, not next week, not anything like that. Start today and then start seeing the changes. Focus on looking for the changes. Just because something doesn't work right away, that doesn't mean it's not meant for you. Just focus, be grateful, take the steps that I mentioned, and you'll see the changes. And that's it for today. If this episode hit home for you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Let's spread this message and help more people break free from the negativity trap. This is the Bad Influence Podcast with me, your host, Bjordan Banderas, and I'm telling you to go out there, choose happiness, and never let negativity define your life. I'll catch you on the next episode. Until then, stay bold, stay positive, and stay true to yourself. And have a great day.